I'm curious as to your process now, moving kind of out of that, maybe because everyone finds that rhythm of how they go to that thing in their life on a regular basis so that it doesn't atrophy or go away, or, you know, how do you keep sharp? What do you do on a regular basis to keep writing? What do you do so that you don't get dried up?
Well, for my writing, which I say is a hobby, although I'm working on this book right now and I'm generating a fair amount of work, I don't really have to go anywhere to get much inspiration for writing. Because I like, as I said earlier, I like to communicate. So it's like, you can get me to talk like this for hours. So I don't have to go anywhere for talking inspiration. Same thing with writing. For me, generating material on the typewriter or longhand, it's a technique to engage my thinking and to hopefully spirit up a bit of emotionalism. So the writing becomes almost a tool for me. And so I don't have much resistance to it.
That's great.
In that sense. But the reason I don't is because I've done it so much. And I've never gone professional with it. So I just do it as a core part of what helps me try to figure out what my place is in the world. Helps me learn how to be more spontaneous and, you know, try to be a little more emotional, connected to who I am as a man and as a human being floating on this earth. Now the question of what do I need to do to engage some of my other creative dreams, which are not as integrated. You know, I used to be big in performance, and we did it because it was a job. Now I'm coming at performance as an art form, and I'm a bit afraid of it. You would think I wouldn't be after thousands of shows, and you know, I can stand in front of, you know, an entire football stadium and talk like this. But when I have to give my genuine truth to an audience, it really spooks me. And so I stay away from it a bit and tend to do what often one does in life, which is watch Downton Abbey, or maybe spend a little too much unstructured time with my buddies just because I can,
right.
And I can afford it, and I don't mean monetarily, but I have the time.
Right.
So I'm going through that right now because I've just finished this book, 100 Poems in 100 Days, and I'm calling it Looking at Light. And for those of you out there, I had a bout with prostate cancer last year and had to have prostate surgery. And I know that many of you have had your own problems. And if you haven't, you probably will bump into something along the way. It can be a real tragedy, or it can be the best thing that ever happened to you. And I don't mean the best thing like I want to order this up and have it delivered to the door when the guy knocks and delivers the pizza pie, but I mean it's something that can be transformed. So what I decided to do was write 100 poems in 100 days, being I was in the hospital after the surgery. So I dictated the first poem on a Sony D50 field recorder, which is a really nice piece of equipment. And then I proceeded for 100 days. And now I have it. It's almost ready to go. I'm putting it all together. I'm going to self-publish it because it's easier to self-publish than it is to get a publisher. And again, not being a commercial writer, I choose that option. I think I could probably pick up a publisher because it's all talking about male identity and what happens to men when something crashes into them and how do they deal with it. Now, women have their own view of that, but I can speak from the male point of view. And we're a little more stoic and a little tougher and, willing to, I'm okay, when maybe I'm not.
Right.
Okay? So now I have this what I consider a really substantial body of work that I'm spending a lot of time on. So the thought is, can I perform it? And I'm like, God, what do I have to do that? And I just have to start paying attention to my health, get in shape, work out, eat well, get good rest, and start practicing. And at the end of the day, the resolve to practice is what makes it all happen. Practice, 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 practice.
Right. So there's definitely a meeting of the opportunity versus the preparation kind of intersecting, which is a huge part of it.
And what happens is the fear or the doubt is democratic. You know, you said, oh, I have my doubts about doing this or this. And I say, oh, I have my doubts about doing this or this. And if you look at look at when those doubts emerge, what I think you'll find, or what I've observed, is that it's whenever somebody's getting ready to make a big creative leap. So no matter how skilled you are, there's always that next jump. And maybe coming back to this work ethic about, I get my job, I punch the clock, I go to work, and I come home with my paycheck, and then I'm able to have fun after work, is what happens with people in that often, well, that's it. Right. I don't have to make a creative leap, it's fine. And maybe that's cool. But for people who decide, I'm gonna attempt to make art or make something creative, the creative leap always spooks them, no matter how far along they are. Yeah. You know, even the Academy Award-winning actor who decides to be a film director, who has a big name as a star actor, then suddenly is behind the camera directing, and directorial stuff is very different than acting. Yeah. But they're expected to be the next John Huston or Martin Scorsese or some other great director, Steven Spielberg, I mentioned him earlier. They're expected to have that level of skill when they've never done it before, even though they've been rewarded with an Academy Award. Mm-hmm. So there's always that big leap. So it's an issue of courage as much as it is anything else. Are you willing to show up?
It's the brave choice to make.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, and then we'll see what happens.
Right. I like to call it a case of the oh-no's.
How do you mean?
A case of the oh-no's. Like, before I make a big creative push, I think, oh no, oh no, like, what am I doing? Absolutely not. And so that's like the phrase that comes to my mind. So I'm like, oh, I got myself a case of the oh-no's again. Like, I'm doing it all over again. Every time I push, I'm going to try and make a piece in a new way, or I'm going to try and write something new or something different. But that anxiety is always kind of there. So
yeah, and then there's
an acceptance of it.
And then there's this whole idea of the private need and the public persona. And that you find in acting. So, so we often have our private needs. What do I really want? And you know that somewhere in your soul. But your public persona is, oh, I'm this sophisticated party animal.
Right.
But really you want to be a Zen monk.
Right.
And so that we're always driven to try to figure out those. So like one of my big things is I've always tell everybody I'm a big traveler, and I am. I've traveled all over the world. I've traveled not as much as a lot of people, but I've covered some really serious territory on many continents. And so my public persona is I'm the world traveler. But you know what? I don't get much work done when I'm the world traveler. I'm much happier just finding home and being in one place. And I've had to square that with my public persona of, oh, I'm off to the next land. But what that really means is that I'm walking the fence on making a commitment to actually showing up and doing maybe what my soul tells me to do.
Right. The creative journey is...
Yeah, it's and I would recommend it to anybody. I really would. I mean, so if you're out there listening to this and you're wondering, well, should I? The answer is yes, you should. And if you're wondering, will it work out the way I think it will? The answer is no, it will not.
I like that a lot.
Forget it. That's not going to happen. But will it work out so that at the end of the line you look back and say, by golly, I plowed the field and I'm proud of it? You bet your ass at will.
You can say that. It's totally fine with me.
I don't know whether I can say it. I mean, I'm trying to keep my radio voice, but you bet your ass it will. Because, you know, at the end, you'll be proud of yourself. And you'll say, I held up, and I did what I wanted to do. And the discoveries along the way are just absolutely remarkable. And the people you meet, they all become stars. Everybody I know is a celebrity, none of whom you would recognize on the street, but as far as I'm concerned, they're all stars. And that's a great feeling to have that. It's a privilege.
I completely agree. I really want to thank you for being here today. I really appreciate your making an effort to come join this conversation just for my own personal benefit. Thank you for coming to my art studio to see some of the work that I've made in the last year since I took the Artist's Way. And thanks for participating in my Art Nurture conversation.